Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. Welcome to today's episode of Wisdom Talk Radio. This is where we explore the depths of conscious living and how to live an expanded life. Join us to be inspired and encouraged and transformed, and to tap into a deeper level of joy and possibility. Have you ever dreamed of living with a group of people who were each dedicated to their own transformation, their own personal growth, and their own place in the world? How do you think that would propel your own growth? How do you think that might create for you the kind of life, not only lifestyle, but really the life that you have been perhaps longing for? What if you could have this in a place that was also filled with absolutely incredible natural beauty? Might Costa Rica be somewhere in this dream? Stay tuned for this dynamic episode, which may spark some dreams, some new dreams even, for you. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the Quantum Connection Process. You can go there to discover your own unique connection with the essence of who you are, starting with taking the Quantum Connection quiz. And why do I say quantum connection? And it's that we're each designed to directly connect with Source in our own way. And knowing what that archetype is, what that style is, will open you to a deeper connection with the universe. And really, that's the secret to creating what you want in your life. Maybe it's living in conscious community. Because who you are is exactly who is needed. My guest today is a dear, dear, dear friend, Teresa de Grosbois, and I'm so excited she is here. I'm going to tell you about her. She is an international speaker, a #1 international best-selling author, and thought leader in the field of conscious influence and evolutionary leadership. With a deep passion for creating positive change, she has dedicated her career to empowering leaders and organizations to make a meaningful impact. Now, she's channeling her expertise into the development of Vista Mundo, an eco-sustainable and conscious community in Costa Rica that embodies her vision for a more harmonious and sustainable future. Through Vista Mundo, Teresa is creating a space where individuals can live in alignment with their values, connect with nature, and contribute to a thriving community. Welcome, Teresa de Grosbois. I haven't talked to you for so long. I want to just sit and chat, but we're going to chat with purpose here. So welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio.
Great to be here, Laurie. Thank you so much for having me.
So Teresa, I first met you with Evolutionary Business Council, the organization that you founded and carried and fostered for so long. And you have been a force for so many people in conscious leadership. I can't think of anybody that I would elevate really in that regard more than you. Can you share a bit of that journey and how it connects with what you're doing now with conscious community?
Well, it's kind of just, it's been an evolution to talk about evolutionary business, right? I've always felt like once you decide you want to live your life more consciously, in flow with Source, that sometimes you got to hold your plans loosely. You got to see where the universe takes you,
Indeed.
And as I got further along in my journey of leading conscious business initiatives, I started to think more and more, especially as I approach what most people consider retirement age. I don't really want to retire, but I want to think about my own living circumstance more easily, And once you're running a business where it doesn't matter where you're physically located, I started thinking about where do I want to live and who do I want to live with? you know.
Oh, yes.
And so creating a conscious community here in Costa Rica was as much a journey of my unashamed attempt to pick my own neighbors, you know,
Yes, I
because
love
I
it.
really do believe that we do become like the people we hang out with the most.
Hmm.
And, you know, as much as I've contributed to other people, I still have my own work to do, God knows, right? And I want to be surrounded with people who will call me on my own stuff when I start to slip, when my thought patterns go negative, when I start venting too much, when I start in the woe is me conversation that it's so easy to fall into as human beings, right? As
Hmm.
soon as things
Hmm.
go wrong. I want to be surrounded by people who remind me who I am in the world and that that isn't who I am and who give me a hand back up.
Hmm. I love that. I want to be surrounded by people who remind me who I am.
Yeah.
That that's been meaningful to me most of my life, actually, but certainly for a really big chunk when I'd never lived in a community, but I've always dreamed about that of, oh, these are the people that I want to have in my world because they do remind me of who I am.
Yeah. One of my favorite Jennifer Huff quotes is a friend is someone who learns the song in your heart and sings it to you when you've forgotten it. And
Mm,
that's always been so meaningful to me because, you know, even when we look at our greatest leaders on the planet, Gandhi and Martin Luther King, and, you know, when you go back and read their journals, even Mother Teresa had dark night of the soul,
hmm.
you know, and moments of great inner doubt and inner angst. And in those moments, who do you want to have around you? You know, who
Yes,
do you want to have reminding you that you're here for a bigger purpose? And who do you want to have helping you on that bigger purpose? Who do you want to
exactly.
have dinner with on a Friday night as a potluck? You know?
Because you're really then held in love.
Yes,
We're
absolutely.
held in love. And if we're going to talk about transforming the world, if we're going to talk about, bringing into being what is possible, that has to be first and foremost.
Yeah,
So that seems
absolutely.
to be, really what you've been creating. So I want to hear about Vista Mundo and, what is it? And I hear about what inspired you to create it.
Hmm.
But I feel like we can start to dig into that a bit.
Yeah. Well, Vista Mundo is a very early stage conscious community development. And, you know, there's lots of intentional communities and eco-sustainable communities in the world, especially in Costa Rica. There's now quite a few developed. As far as I know, we're one of the first that's putting consciousness first and other principles as well. If we were a conscious community, of course, we'd be eco-sustainable, or of course, we'd be intentional because
Hmm.
eco-sustainability and intentionality is part of consciousness, right?
Right.
And so we're making first and foremost our values around like, how do we deal with conflicts with each other? How do we deal with supporting each other in moments when your neighbor needs a hand? Um, how do we connect as a community? You know, some of the cool things that some of our community members have started is we have almost like a secret Santa of coaching each other where when there's enough of us here on site, we all draw names and you spend an hour dedicating to whoever's name you drew whatever they need in that week.
Hmm.
You know, maybe it's something oriented to helping them with their health, maybe it's something coaching them around some trauma.
Hmm.
Most of us living here are people with quite an array of skills, from yoga and wellness to conscious business, and therefore it becomes kind of a joy to invest in each other as neighbors that way.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. And I'm just reflecting on that very quickly that I injured myself and I couldn't walk. I couldn't put weight on a fracture in my leg. And I'm just coming out of that. And a couple of dear friends who don't live too far were coming every late afternoon and helping me do whatever I needed,
Nice.
whatever I needed. And then neighbors, oh, can I bring you dinner? Would you like dinner tonight? Yes. Can you also help me with these things? Of course. And then that just started expanding more and more. And frankly, I'm very capable and used to doing things myself and for myself. And this was such an amazing experience of that.
Yeah. There's moments of both physical and emotional vulnerability when
Hmm.
really need amazing friends around us.
Yeah.
So Vista Mundo is kind of a declaration of let's attract the most amazing people to be around us, especially in those moments when we need other people, you know. And one of the reasons I chose Costa Rica is Costa Rica's already got an ethic of living in a very intentional, conscious way.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
you look at the values of the people here, I think one of the reasons Costa Rica is a blue zone, where I don't, if people don't know what a blue zone is, it's one of the regions where there's the highest level of centenarians, people who live beyond the age of 100, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And officially, it's only the Guanacaste province, but unofficially, people believe it's all of rural Costa Rica.
Ah,
It's just the only province that doesn't have a corner in the capital happens to be Guanacaste.
okay.
But like if you look at our local town,
Hmm.
there's as many as six. Last I heard, there were six centenarians in our local town of 1,000 people.
Oh my goodness.
And so there's something to be said about the the principles of longevity that came out of those early studies that were done on what creates a blue zone, where living in community, eating well, eating fresh food, a lot of unprocessed foods in your diet,
Mm-hmm.
but also having a purpose to your life, you know. And I think who we declare ourselves to be, I've decided since I've already gone on the adventure of learning about conscious influence and, how do we really influence change? I want to make the next 20 years of my life about conscious wealth. You know,
Ah.
how do we influence attracting in the wealthy of the world to start to use wealth in a way that really does start to tip the needle on
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
world that works for everyone? And I actually think there are quite a few conscious wealthy out there, but they haven't really been banded together effectively, or
Mm-hmm.
they are not in community, and therefore their own ability to be effective isn't quite as great as if they were in a community of conscious wealthy, all saying, okay, this year let's go after this problem, and let's
Mm-hmm.
attract more wealthy, and let's change the whole planet's paradigm on how we address this problem, and so I think that's kind of what I'm going to be doing for fun in the next 20 years. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to see who we can attract in as neighbors as part of this community, because sometimes the conversations you have over a cup of tea in the morning are the most important ones you have all month.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you don't go away for retreat to brainstorm. You live in that energy of let's create what we want to create, what's here to create.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm so fascinated with the way in which conscious community could um, could have a role, could have a place in collective and personal transformation, and particularly in that collective transformation. And I'm curious to hear from you why this is really so timely.
Well, I think this is the next evolution of consciousness. A lot of us have personal practices, or we go off to a
Mhm.
class once a week, or we do yoga twice a week in a class, or we do workshops 4 or 5 times a year to help us really get the needle back up in terms of our own
Mhm.
vibration. But it's not a daily practice in community for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Like just walking down the street and knowing that your neighbors are in the same conversation as you,
Yeah.
that they're committed to their own vibration at the same level you're committed to your vibration, and they're committed to their purpose on this planet to
Mhm.
actually move the needle on the planet,
Mhm.
that we'll actually collectively as a group start to think about what are some of the problems we want to solve. I think that's sort of the next evolution as to where consciousness needs to go on this planet. And I really love that Margaret Mead quote, never underestimate that a small group of concerned citizens can change the world, but
Mhm.
indeed it's the only thing that ever had. So creating a conscious community that actually has a physical home just gives more power to that.
Wow. And there's so much that's calling out for attention right now, and I love what you're saying about it being the next evolution, really, of consciousness. That
Yeah.
we can do our own thing. And there's so much out there to support us doing our own thing. But
Yeah,
there's also something energetic when we come together that,
yeah.
people talk about the pockets of light, around the globe. But this feels like a really direct way to create that.
It is. And I think a big part of the consciousness of this community is going to be around money. There's a lot of, let me affectionately call them light workers that have a lot of poverty consciousness
Hmm.
in their
Hmm.
life. And, if I was to speak metaphorically, if I was the devil on this planet, I would not want nothing more than all of the people that were servants of the light to think they could not pick up the most powerful weapon on this planet and use it unashamedly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because money is just a placeholder for energy, for how we move energy around this planet, right? And not that money is everything, but boy, it is a massively useful tool, And
Absolutely.
so we're designing this community with personal wealth in mind.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
going to be a collection of businesses where we really support each other to be successful businesses and to be successful in the money conversation,
Hmm.
we've actually taken an approach of doing this community one project at a time. So the first I'm sitting in right now, this is not a virtual background here. This is literally the Vista Mundo Retreat Center I'm sitting in right now.
Hmm.
And we designed it with the view in mind of selling it within 3 to 4 years. So it's actually for sale right now with a view of attracting in the right buyer.
Yes.
And then we'll
Yes.
move on to the next project, right? But we're committed to create conscious and sustainable business models. So a buyer walking in is going to walk into something that comes with profitability, comes with sustainability, comes with the community supporting it to
Hmm.
make sure that there's money in the mix,
Yes.
because
Yes.
part of what we're committed to is not just conscious living, but living in conscious wealth,
Hmm.
you know.
And when we take away any charge around the idea of wealth, because a lot of people have issues around
Yeah,
wealth and or
yeah,
judgment about wealth.
yeah.
And I will always not just remember, but really appreciate deeply the teaching I got from my own teacher, who always said, money in the metaphysical, money is the highest vibration of love. Or
I
no,
believe.
she would say, money is the highest vibration. In the
Mhm.
physical, it's money. In the metaphysical, it's love.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I kind of messed that one up a little bit. But the idea of, yeah, this is a high frequency. And as we learn how to use it, as we learn how to receive it, everything starts to become possible that couldn't in another way.
Well, the physical money is just a placeholder that represents what money is,
Hmm.
right? And money is really just how do we move energy and value around this planet? Now, it is a tool that can be used by people who are, let's say, low vibration, that, are greedy or, just love money for the power it gives them.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean it can also be a force for good, just like the internet. Like the internet is not bad, it's a tool, right? It's a
Right,
tool for how
right.
we connect and how we move energy on this planet, right? And that's why I love cryptocurrency so much, because it's a faster and simpler way to move money and value around this planet. I think it is the next evolution of money. And that's why we're actually a crypto friendly community here, because I actually think the people who invented cryptocurrency and who championed its use, and a lot of the early adopters in cryptocurrency really saw the potential of the good that it's going to do on the planet, because it takes the
Hmm.
control out of the banks and it gives more power to individual entrepreneurs and
Hmm.
individual businesses, that their money isn't constantly being eroded and whittled away and scrutinized at every turn.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, so I think there is a lot of evolution going on the planet. And, as a conscious community, we're really encouraging early adoption of a lot of the use of tools that are going to help us to create a world that works for everyone.
So when you talked about different projects, okay, this is one.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's I want to say a bigger umbrella, if you will, that speaks to not just this individual retreat center, but a bigger picture.
Well, right now the whole community is 23 lots.
Uh-huh.
And people can buy a lot and do a project on the lot. And certainly when I sell the retreat center, I'm going to move on to my next project.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but the idea is to have a number of businesses and business owners or people who are committed to living in a conscious way
Hmm.
that all support each other. You know, when you look at the most successful communities in Costa Rica, it's usually the ones that have several retreat centers and wellness centers and different conscious oriented businesses that all work in harmony with each other. It's interesting. You would think two or three retreat centers in the same community would compete with each other. In fact, they help each other and they sustain each other because they simply turn that town into a hotspot for that kind of energy,
Right,
right?
right.
And the interesting thing about our location, we're actually in a location that I think is one of the untapped regions of Costa Rica. Like we actually have a named stretch of highway 2 minutes from us, which is El Camino del Cielo y Colibri, the Trail of Hummingbirds in Heaven, right?
Oh.
And it's one of the most picturesque drives in the world. And
Mhm.
people drive through here, but it's like, well, why don't we have conscious businesses around here so people want to stop and hang out,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you know? And I really think that there's so much potential to create something really beautiful and really exciting here. And it could really change the economy of the whole region
Right.
to develop something that is sustainable and supportive of individual businesses.
I'm just thinking about having run a retreat in an area in Spain where, we were looking for different things that,
Mhm.
if you start to build a business that supports that, you have a retreat center, then you have your chefs, then you have the people that transport people. The people that come and teach yoga. You've really got a potential for all sorts of businesses tapping into each other and supporting one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, are you willing to talk at all about what your next project is, or if you even have a picture of that?
I can talk a little bit about it. You know, after this, I'm because right now I'm living in the retreat center just to make sure everything runs smoothly. But
Hmm.
my next project is going to be a selfish one. I'm going to build my own house so that I have a beautiful, sustainable place to live here.
Hmm.
And then I'm really looking to become more an angel investor in other people's projects.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think my next project might even be to create almost sort of reality TV. We might start on YouTube, but
Hmm.
a project that looks at let's share with the world developing projects that change the world.
Ooh.
And so I don't think I'm going to be the one starting the projects myself. I'm going to be looking for people to partner with
Hmm. Hmm.
that are looking for investment. And you know, the first starts with this retreat center. You know,
Hmm.
let's find the person who wants to run the retreat center and take over the ownership of it. But I'm just very excited to become someone who is a force for creating conscious business. And I don't mean low level conscious business. I mean, you know, conscious business that has the potential to impact millions.
Hmm.
You
Hmm. Hmm.
know, and so I'm kind of excited to see where that takes me. I've learned though through experience to hold my own plans loosely because
Yes.
you know, often I have a vision of something and the universe is a whole different idea. And like certainly I could never have envisioned becoming the chair of the Evolutionary Business Council, a community that had a collective reach of over 500 million people, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
Um, that was way beyond what I could envision at the start, you know. So I learned to just, you know, declare to the universe, here's what I think it is, but go ahead and use me, you know,
Hmm.
use me as a
Hmm.
force for change, you know. So one of the things I'm actually doing as a hobby, believe it or not, is I trade crypto.
Hmm.
And as a hobby, I'm teaching myself how to code so that I can automate my trading.
Oh, oh, how
And
cool.
that's like, okay, that's kind of a weird hobby for someone who teaches influence and stuff. But I'm starting to realize that there's more people out there that are multifaceted and multidimensional and the journey of life is just bringing together all the different things you do to
Hmm.
make it all cohesive and make it all make sense. And so, you know, I'm really encouraging people who come into Vista Mundo to like let everything in your life be part of the solution, to how you create a fun, awesome, sustainable future that brings consciousness to the forefront in the world.
Wow. I love the vision of that and the reality of what's possible then when you create that. Um,
Mhm.
I've always known you to be a person of great vision and to also hear, oh yeah, I don't always see what's possible. So I'm going to surrender to a bigger picture than I might even know about yet. And I think if guidance were to share with us the biggest vision of what's possible for us, we might, in our humanness, pull back, get
Mhm.
scared, like, oh, not me, or I couldn't do that. How's that possible? So I think the universe has a little way of maybe holding back on some of the pieces as we allow ourselves to step into what's possible.
Absolutely. I'm actually excited to see what gets created here because, still about half of the lots are still for sale, and
Uh-huh.
a lot of the people who bought lots are holding visions of what they're going to create and what they're going to build here. And
Hmm.
it's exciting. It's exciting to see things unfold and not necessarily know what the end outcome will be, but know that it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. So let me just ask you some particulars. So are lots still available if somebody just wants to
Yeah.
come in and say, I don't want to buy a retreat center right now, but I want to buy a lot.
Yes, they range in price from about 80,000 to 150,000. It's very inexpensive to live and build here relative to the United States for the most part, like relative to Canada and the US. But
Mhm.
so generally you can build something for between 100 and $150 a square foot.
Mhm.
And you can build in let's start with something small and then expand kind of way. So a lot of people are looking at okay, well, here's what I'm going to start with. And here's my bigger vision for what I'm going to build later. We've even built this retreat center with that in mind. There's lots of
Mhm.
room to expand. For the person who comes in and buys it, they could eventually double the capacity of the facility,
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah,
so is the retreat center also right now available for people to rent it out as a retreat center?
absolutely. Yeah, we're fully operating retreat center
Okay,
and
that's what I thought.
happy. We just finished an Akashic Records retreat for Lisa
With Lisa.
Barnett. It was
Uh-huh.
just beautiful and wonderful. She's a dear friend, so she let me attend the retreat too. So I'm like, oh, double bonus. I actually got to go to the retreat as well as be the host facility.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are still operating as a retreat center. We also do vacation packages here. So if people want to come down and have a conscious vacation or just go bird watching.
Hmm.
I'm an avid bird watcher and an avid wildlife spotter. For me, that just gives me joy. So, we get all kinds of wildlife here. We get capuchin monkeys and
Mm.
little armadillos and coati and all kinds of, we get quite a few jungle cats wandering around at night too, which is kind of fun to see. So
So I remember you talking about food forests.
yeah, that's
What
part
is
of the
that?
vision for the community. So Um, one of the things that's becoming in the forefront for eco-sustainable communities is to like not have a plot of land over there and you build all your food and you share it with the community,
Mhm.
but rather create more of a biophilic design. And biophilic just means nature is fully integrated into how we develop our properties.
Hmm.
So the plan of these properties is to not only put in hydroponic gardens when we build and have vertical gardens, which are becoming really popular. You can grow a massive amount of food in
Mhm.
6 square feet with a vertical garden. You just um, it's very simple and very economical and very easy to design. But we're also going to be putting in food trees around all the homes. So everyone that's coming in, we're asking, please have a commitment to planting a certain amount of food trees. And that way, we'll be able to share food with our neighbors.
Mm.
If you've got the cashew nut tree and the neighbor down the road has the jackfruit tree, well, we just share our harvest together and that way the 100-mile diet becomes very easy in Costa Rica. Trying to eat food that's grown within 100 miles of your house. Well, here, I think I'm down to about a 20-mile diet
Wow.
where it's very easy, other than I do buy a few treats, like, good balsamic vinegar from Italy and
Oh yeah, of course, of
like
course.
that.
It's
Well, I
not
would say
saying all
really
or nothing.
my diet is very local and very fresh.
Mhm.
So,
I was recently spent some time in Eastern France, and and that's how. Oh yeah, I know the person. Get my eggs from the farm just down the road. The guy that has the hives, and yeah, this is his honey. You want some of his honey, and
yeah,
it,
it's
it
just
it's inherent in that way of living, and that's what you're creating anew almost.
exactly like just here on this property, we've got bananas and plantain and passion fruit and avocados.
Mm,
So
mm,
it's starting. We learned about food forests the hard way, though. When we initially started the development, we were going out on all the other lots and trying to plant food trees, and a lot of them were dying on us. And so we realized the food trees have to come in after the houses are developed and after the projects are developed, because there needs to be someone there to care for them and
right.
make sure they're tended.
Hmm.
And so the food forest is a long-term vision, and it's just something we're having a lot of fun with.
Hmm.
I've started creating espalier hedges. I don't know if people know what espalier is, but it's when instead of a fence, you build more like a trellis along your lot lines,
Hmm.
and then you train fruit trees or things like that along the trellis. And I think they're so beautiful. They're very common in France, that you see
Right,
them
right.
along the fence lines in France. And so I've started to play around and experiment a bit with espalier. I think when I build my house, I'm not going to have fences. I'm going to have espalier fruit
Oh,
trees everywhere. That's my fun vision of how I want to create my food forest on my own property.
wow. It, boy, I mean, there's so much that goes into all of this, and I mean, there's the philosophical, if you will, level of, why do this, and how it is good for each other. It's how it is good for ourselves, and then how it is good for the local community, and then out from there, it keeps growing, it keeps expanding.
Yeah.
Um, and
It's selfish in a way, because I want to live to be 120.
mhm,
And when you look at the secrets of longevity, they're all about diet. They're about eating local and fresh, and they're all about community. And, who do you have around you supporting you? And they're all about life purpose. Do you still have an active role in your community, in your family, in the world at large? And do you feel your life counts and your life matters for something? And when you look at that sort of triangle of what creates longevity, I really think, moving to Costa Rica and becoming part of a conscious, sustainable community is one of the most selfish things you could ever do, because it'll probably give you an extra 20 or 30 years on your life. You know?
so instead of, if you're wealthy, putting money into, what technology is going to keep me alive, do it from
Mhm.
the inside out and live in a way that sustains your health, sustains your well-being, and contributes to the greater good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm sure part of my own selfishness is why I want to move into being more of an investor than a doer. Because I'm like, okay, I'm in my 60s now. I don't want to work that hard anymore. Like,
You want to
like,
see, watch more birds.
yes, I want to have my spotting scope out looking at toucans. Oh,
Oh, Teresa, this is so wonderful. It feels so juicy. And I feel like what you are seeing in potential is like, it's just, you're on the tipping point, and not in the usual way that that's talked about, but the tipping point of this vision becoming reality. I mean, it already is reality. You already
thank
have that conscious community there. It not only works, it's sustainable, and it sustains you. And I don't mean you personally, but the greater you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. It feels like we're at the baby stage, but I can't wait to see what it is when it grows up.
Yes, exactly. So you have to stick around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're looking for the visionaries too.
Right.
That's
Right.
one of the reasons I hold my own vision loosely, is I know one of my life's purposes is to grow visionaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to accept that my own vision might only be a very small subset of what the bigger vision could and probably will be.
Yes.
I learned that the fun way on the Evolutionary Business Council. I
Mm-hmm.
had a vision of what that could be. Became so much more than anything I could have envisioned,
Yeah.
because my main vision was investing in conscious leaders, and when you
Mm-hmm.
invest in conscious leaders, it's amazing what gets created.
And I was part of that. I was the beneficiary of that. And I have seen how, as I look around to people that were very much a part of that in a big way, how that has continued and grown and exponentiated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we shouldn't talk about it like it's in the past tense. The
Right.
evolutionary
No, no, no. But it
still
continues.
exists. I gave over the leadership of it to Amana Guy, who's a brilliant thought leader and is doing wonderful things with the
Mhm.
organization. So I'm excited to see what its next iteration is going to look like.
Yeah, and he's just taking it into some incredible new dimensions and directions, and he
Mhm.
just it feels potent.
Yes,
And
very
the
much.
potency is keeps not only being like the incipient light, but the light is shining.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So thank you for everything that you have shared and everything that you're continuing to create. I honor you and I want to celebrate what this all is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's really been a joy being here today, Laurie. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank our audience for being here with us today. Thank you for every way that every way that you support this and every way that you receive it, because in doing that you expand what's possible in your own way, in your own uniqueness. And that's what we're all here to do, is take whatever is our unique expression and bring it into the world. And so just your willingness to listen, to encounter a new idea, to encounter a new possibility, a new reality, and then to share it. So I want to invite you to share this with somebody that occurred to you as you were listening to this. Oh, my friend Maggie needs to hear about this. Jim might be interested. Whatever it is, share it, because you don't know where that's going to go. You don't know how that's going to affect change in the greater good. Um, so share it, leave a review if you've enjoyed this, because that helps other people discover it. And for you in your own being, go over to the Baca Institute and take the Quantum Connection quiz, because there's something there for you that you can discover. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.